Welcome back to another episode.
What's up, shitbags? Welcome back. We got our first special episode. Super excited to do this. We got a third episode of the month. So, just last year we were only at one episode a month. Now we're able to fit in three for a good occasion. So that's awesome.
Moving up in the world.
Yeah, getting it figured out. So it's awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this little special episode that we threw together. Huge thank you to all of our sponsors, Taylor, Jobtown, and Crew First. I mean, it's always since we keep recording, I keep wanting to say the same things of, hey, check out the website for all the t-shirts and stuff. But God, you guys are gonna hear it 14 times in a row. So yeah, we're gonna skip over all that stuff right now. We're gonna go right into the guests. So you don't want to hear any more of that stuff. You guys know the drill. So we'll bring in our guest, Sharlea.
Hi,
Welcome
guys.
on.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. Why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Okay. So as you guys probably saw in the bio, my name is Sharlea. I am currently a fire lieutenant from City of Milwaukee. I'm stationed at Engine 21. Been there just a few months now. I've been with the department for just about 9 years, including all of my academy training. Been a lieutenant for about 3.
Awesome. Cool. So, we'll jump into the questions, still talking a little bit more about yourself and your history. The first one that we have is, how'd you end up in the fire service?
So for me, it started largely medical based. So when I was in high school, my anatomy teacher, I remember this day so vividly. He came up to me and he's like, you're very small in stature and you're very smart. You should look into flight nursing. And I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. I really didn't have a direction. So when he said that, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. So when I started to look into it, I'm like, well, nursing school is very expensive, and I didn't really have a way to put myself through college. So kind of the easier route, I shouldn't say easier, but maybe less expensive, was paramedic. So I'm like, if I start with paramedic training, kind of see where that leads me. So then I could look into paramedic, flight paramedic. And then when I started to look into that, it's well, you need experience. You can't just jump on a helicopter right away. Mm-hmm. And my options were either in this area, private ambulance companies or fire departments. So as I started doing more ride-alongs with fire departments, I'm like, wait, that actually looks super cool. So it wasn't I wasn't one of those people that had the dream as a child, I'm going to be a firefighter when I grow up. It just kind of was an avenue that I took unexpectedly and worked out very well for me. And I'm very, very grateful.
Awesome. Is there any kind of thought in going back to any of that, or did you full blown fire now that you fell in love with when you came in?
It's definitely a plan for me. Maybe in retirement, I would still into the flight nursing. And I always say when my girls get a little older, I might go back to school for nursing. But as of right now, I'm fully committed to the fire department.
Everything on the bird is so cool. That was the goal too. It's not easy to do as a side gig. So yeah, a retirement gig would be pretty cool. But
the flight path for Flight for Life from wherever they go to Freighter, it is directly above my house. So I'm constantly watching them go by, and I'm like, that's gonna be me someday.
You're right. There's a lot of schooling for that.
Yeah, we call a lot of birds by us. So we get to deal with them a lot. We get UW Med Flight, so we get to deal with the dock, which is so cool. Last year I think was when they came in. At that time, there was only one of 2 in the nation that fly with flight trauma docks. So
that's awesome.
Getting to work with them in the back of an ambulance and helping them out and them helping us out is pretty cool. So that's definitely a cool career.
For sure.
All right. Next one that we have, going into fire service, and now that you fell into it and you started going into it, what did you do as a new firefighter to earn the respect of your crew?
I guess for me, it's just showing interest. If somebody is willing to take the time to teach me a new skill or show me a new way of doing something, I would just always make sure to pay them my full attention, even if it's something that somebody else has already told me. I guess one of my pet peeves now as an officer is if I try to go over something with someone and they're like, I already know this, or somebody already showed me this. I hate that. So for me as a young firefighter, even if it's something that somebody had told me 100 times, I'm like, well, let me listen again, because everybody does something a little bit differently. So you can pick something up every time. So really just showing your interest and paying people your full attention, showing that you're motivated and you're dedicated. I think those things go a long way as a new member.
For sure.
Yeah. It's definitely a piece of advice that we've heard that I was given all the time is even by us, you go on days. So for your first week, you're there for 2 weeks. You're there every single day. So you could get told the same thing 3 times on 3 different days by a shift that didn't know that you went over it and everything. So that was something we were always told and kind of preached is Yeah, exactly. Like you said, yeah, I've seen it before, but everybody does it different. I'd love to see it done.
Exactly.
To not say, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Moving along with the questions that we got, what do you think brings a crew together the best? So you can talk about either as like when you were a new firefighter or now that you're an officer, what you kind of try and bring about that brings them together.
I think it's really like it's kind of based on your crew, right? So there's some crew members who don't really like to do things outside of the department, and that's fine. Like that's people have families and lives outside of the four walls of the station. So if you can't really do those crew outings all the time, I think still implementing that like family time in your firehouse, like on shift, is really big for me. And when I say that, like a lot of the times I think people are like, well, we watch a movie together. Like that's our family time, which that's good too. But I love implementing like actual activities where people have to talk and like look at each other. So for me, a couple of times we've actually played like drinking games per se, but we'll use like LaCroix. So like my favorite one is like Circle of Death in the station with a LaCroix. Have you guys ever played that?
Oh, that's awesome.
It's actually very fun because like nobody wants to chug a LaCroix, right?
Yeah, it still has the same effect on it.
Like
awesome.
You play it outside of work with a beer, but you play it with a LaCroix. I don't know. It sounds silly, but like it's just fun, and everybody's like, "Are we really doing this?" But then 5 minutes in, everybody's laughing so hard and chugging LaCroix, and so implementing that family time is huge, just from the fun aspect. But then also, like the easy answer is training, right? Like getting to know your crew's strengths and weaknesses, and like what makes them nervous or what they feel good about. Like that's huge.
Yeah, like we play bags. We have a little bag thing. So we have PD come over. We're really close with our PD down here. They come over and we play bags out back or something. What's nice out. So that's a lot of laughs and fun.
That's important. Like the laughs in between are so important. And I think it's not emphasized enough.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
I still want to get a little like putt green, because when I interned at Fond du Lac, that was their thing, was they would set up a golf course throughout the station when after downtime and loser bought ice cream. It was always a great time.
There you go.
That's my next goal. Yeah. We did have some great, lots of ice cream and donuts. Shout out.
I'll be buying all the time because I suck at golf.
What schedule do you guys run in Milwaukee?
We're 24/48.
Okay. So have you figured out a good way to do kind of outside? I know, we kind of try and do monthly. It ends up being probably quarterly, just because it's so hard to find with that schedule. You only have those 2 off days that with a lot of people, it's hard to schedule. Have you figured anything out around that?
It's definitely difficult. I think for me, I would love to say we do something monthly, but we definitely don't. It's more so like I hit like the holiday parties pretty big. So every year, like either before or after Christmas, and there's some members of my crew who don't celebrate Christmas. So it's just like a holiday gathering or just a gathering. So we try to do that for sure in January, which this year we went to Lux Golf, speaking of golf.
Oh, nice.
That was super fun. But yeah, and it's even just the small stuff like, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee after shift. Just implementing, even if it's a 30-minute thing, it's just kind of nice to connect outside of the fire station when you can, even if it's not as often as you wish it was.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can do a lot more. That was we just had Bobby Eckert on. He had said the exact same thing, which will be weird for when this gets posted. Bobby will be in like 3 episodes or 2 episodes. So, but yeah, we just recorded with him the other day, and that's exactly what he said. So, just getting the coffee or some waffles in the morning, he said. So, yeah. Easy ways to make that happen. Next of the kind of general questions, we kind of talk about this every time, is we won't give much explanation for it. It's just a question that we like so much because it can be taken so many different ways. Is just, why are we here?
So I'm going to pull it up on my phone, otherwise I'm going to say it wrong. But Chief Lipsky, he's the chief of the Milwaukee Fire Department, and I feel like he sums us up super well. It's in his email signature. So every email he sends out, it ends with, I'm not here for me, I'm here for we, and we are here for them. And I love that because like the more you think about it, like there's more to unpack to it. So like the first half of it, like I'm not here for me, I'm here for we. So that to me says like, well, I'm here for my crew, which is a blanket statement. That's easy to say, but like once you become an officer, you realize how true that really is. Like when people come to you and they're like, I really want to be an HEO someday, or I really want to work on this in my marriage, like anything. And just fully like developing that sense of like being there for your people has been probably one of my favorite things about being an officer. So like just you lose a lot of like selfishness, I think, at least for me, that I had. Like when you first come on, you're like, this station would be really cool for me, or I would get so much good experience here. Some of that kind of goes away as you rank up. And that's actually been really cool because you get, at least, again, I'm speaking for myself, but like I get so much more joy seeing somebody else achieve a goal versus like, oh, I made it to the station that I really wanted or whatever. So that's the first part of it that I really like. Like my job as an officer is really truly to be here for my people and to like help them achieve their goals, whether it's work or personal or whatever. And then secondly, like we're here for them. We're here for the citizens. We're here for the whole life and property conservation and like the thing that we all signed up to do. So I think we're here to support each other and build each other up and just be that good, tight-knit group that has each other's backs so that we can be there for the citizens.
Awesome. I like the answer.
Yeah.
It's very cool that your chief sends that out in his emails. That's really awesome.
What'd you say? Sorry, you got
I was like, that's really cool that your chief sends that in his emails.
Yeah, he signed everything that, and I swear, like every time I read it, I'm like, that makes even more sense than it did the last time.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you hear everybody, the we're here for them, and that's like the line guy. I can't think of the right term for it. I want to say the battle cry, but that's like it's right. Just whenever you ask that question, whenever you talk about it, that's what everybody says. So I like that kind of expansion on it because as line guys, we don't think about that. That's what everybody that we've had on here and that we know and like good officers, they say that's what you sign up for when you take that test, when you go for it. Like it's not just you that you're caring for anymore. It's your whole crew. So I really like that expansion on it of just that kind of even higher look on that whole just quote that everybody knows.
For sure.
All right. Next question now that we're kind of got our 4 general ones down is going to be a little bit more personalized. So you mentioned in your bio when we talked to you that you're involved with Ignite the Spirit, Milwaukee. How'd you get involved with that?
So Ignite the Spirit, I'm so excited to talk about this. It's something that I hold like so near and dear to my heart. It started out as, you guys maybe have heard, every year we do this big fundraising event, the calendar release party. So it started out as like Milwaukee firefighters, and now we do like surrounding departments too. Typically no modeling experience. They sign up and they do these crazy photo shoots of like shirtless on the fire engines and whatever, and we sell them, and it's just a funny thing, and we make a ton of money that goes back into supporting firefighters. So that's for me where it started. I just like sold raffle tickets and helped out with stuff like that. And then as I've gotten a little bit deeper into the organization and really learned like what the mission is, I just try to help out however I can, really. So like right now, the big projects we have going on are, again, a little bit more background on the organization. It started out as like support for firefighters, right? So like we would pay for funerals of somebody's. We had a couple, unfortunately, members' wives died of cancer, so we helped cover the cost of their funerals. And then it grew into supporting like mental health. So we've flown people out to Center of Excellence in Maryland who needed help with like addiction, but not only that, we send a representative with them, so they have to fly by themselves, which I think is huge. And then now the next thing we're looking at doing is getting like, the police do it now too, but they have basically like a therapist on retainer 24/7 access. So that's like the next big thing, because right now, if you need support like that, you get like your 3 therapy sessions free through EAP, and then it's kind of like, okay, good luck, you're on your own. Yeah. So now the members would have access to the therapist like basically indefinitely, which I think is going to be really big.
That's very awesome.
It's going to be, I'm very excited.
Cool. I think, did they do the hockey games too, the police versus fire?
Sometimes, yeah, they're involved with stuff like selling raffle tickets and stuff there. We do like fitness classes where you can go, and then like whatever you would pay for like a boxing class would go to like donation. They do all kinds of fun little fundraising events like that.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Yeah, I know I went down to one of those with a couple of my buddies probably 2-3 years ago, and that was a good time. There was a lot of fun there, and I think that one didn't have a fight. My buddies had gone there a long time. They said that was the sad part. They said there usually was a fight on the ice between the cops and fire.
Yeah, so. I'm sure that's always fun. Well, now we have the actual like boxing matches too.
Yeah, we gotta go a boxing match
next year. It's police versus fire boxing matches, which is super fun.
I'll put that awesome on my list. I'm going to one of them.
Make the trip. It'd be fun.
Is that just gonna be down in Milwaukee?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the venue was last year, but it'll be Milwaukee based.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have to give that a check out. So yeah, Ignite the Spirit's awesome. We definitely I didn't know as much about it. I knew a little bit here and there. So it's cool to hear more about what they all do. Next one, getting personal as well. What was your biggest challenge that you faced coming into the job as a female firefighter? You said, 9.5 years ago.
It comes with a whole array of challenges, I guess, like entering any field, but it's predominantly male, right? We all know that. So it's really about just like kind of developing that thick skin, because I'll put it this way. I can make the same mistake as a male counterpart, but I'm going to get twice as much criticism for it, just because like there's less women as a whole, right? So I had to learn super early, like develop that thick skin, let it just roll off because it's not important. Like at the end of the day, you learn how to just like mentally overcome those challenges. And as long as you're impressing the people that matter, like your family, you're making your family proud, right? Or your mentors or people whose opinion you actually really value. Like I had to learn to make that a priority in my brain instead of like the choir over there with their little comments.
Yeah.
So like, I guess like the biggest thing was just like learning how to grow that skin, because for me, it was like, I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to impress everybody and do a good job all the time, which is unrealistic for anybody, not just a female. So it was just like learning to let the negative comments roll off and just get ready for the next opportunity to have a win and bring some positivity back.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, just haters will be hating.
Exactly. That's really all it boils down to.
Or they're being
shitbags.
They're being
shitbags.
You missed that, Brendan. You missed it. It was right there.
Right past my head. So
no, that's awesome. I mean, I think you hear that a lot, and I think I even hear just in general, because we've talked about it being a big family. Like, you're always you're gonna love everybody, you're gonna also hate everybody. Like no one knows how to piss you off more, and like that thick skin, I think, is just such a good thing to have for everybody. Of hey, you're
especially
gonna mess
in this
up.
Career field.
Yeah,
I get a lot of shit during the day in my 24 hours from these guys.
Yeah, if you mess up, you aren't going to hear about it. If you forget to bring donuts on your first day on shift, your nickname is going to become Donut.
Right.
Like that's
our probie now.
that's our probie, who we're losing to a different shift soon. But we're watching Only the Brave, because we had wildland training.
Nice.
The wildland firefighters, and we've been giving him shit for a month now because he didn't bring donuts, and he still hadn't bring donuts. And then we got a new guy starting, and he brought donuts for all 3 shifts. And we were like, oh my God. So we were laying into him. And then we all, for a shift movie, were watching Only the Brave. And they called the dude, his nickname was Donut. And Brendan was like, it's right there.
There the whole time.
It's you. I love it.
That was how he got it. But yeah, it's, know how to piss everybody off. You give lots of shit, but know how to take it too. So
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Next, going into now kind of company officer level, what's your favorite drill to do with your crew for training?
My favorite drill is one that we just did maybe like a month ago. It's called the Rochester drill. It's not like a super well-known one. I did a ton of research on it, and the only article I found was from like a fire engineering magazine, and you had to have like a login to actually view it. So I don't even know what it said. But basically it simulates like a firefighter who's partially fallen through a floor, which happens somewhat frequently out here. Like either a leg goes through or you go through up to your chest or whatever. It simulates like how to remove them from the floor right there with only the tools that you have, which I think is something that's really big, that's not trained on a ton, because it's like when you go into a down firefighter scenario, it's like, okay, we're going to bring our webbing, we're going to bring all this stuff. That's just like a majority of the time, if a mayday is called, the people that are in the building are more than likely going to be the ones to respond right away, at least until RIT's in place.
Yep.
So the thing I like about this drill is you can remove them using the tools that you have on hand. So like for me, my Halligan, you slide it in their shoulder straps, and then you just kind of put a firefighter on each side and use it to like lift and pull the firefighter out of the hole. Nice. It works super well with a New York hook, but like first and second in companies might not have that on them. So we tried it a few different ways with like an axe, a Halligan. It works, obviously dependent on like the environment, the size of the hole, and all that stuff. But that's one that I've been really big into lately. It's really, first of all, it's fun because you get to make a hole in the floor.
Yeah.
But secondly, I just think it's like I never trained on that in the academy. It's either like they're all the way falling through or they're not. So that's been one that I really like training, like my crew on specifically, but also new members.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever trained on that before.
It's a super fun.
That'd be a good one to do. How do you make that prop though?
So the first time we did it in the firehouse, we actually took like 2 workbenches and put them together. Okay. So then you had a person on either workbench that would simulate like being on top of the floor and then being in.
Okay.
Being like the partial suspension. I can send you guys pictures and videos. It might be easier to explain. But so we did that as like the crawl phase in quarters, like figuring out the logistics. And then we went to a vacant that we had permission to do damage to. And we had a truck company come in and cut the hole in the floor. And then we put the A-frame like an A-frame ladder up initially and just had like a firefighter sit on it with their arms in the hole.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. Nice. And we've got a acquire structure coming up here. Our captain got, so maybe we can try that drill.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Do you guys get a lot of acquired structures by you to train in?
Not a ton. I mean, we have a ton of vacants in the city, obviously, but a lot of them are like, you can't do any damage. You can just lay out dry lines. But every once in a while, we'll get one that they're set to tear down that they'll let us do some cuts on.
That's cool. Sweet. Because I know there's a training center there. Do you guys get to use that training tower or like the training center on shift at all? Or is that kind of just outside trainings and everything?
We have access to it, but there's an academy class going on right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Basically occupied from 8 to 4-ish every day. But I brought my crew out there a couple times to use like the door prop or just small things like that when there's not a class going on.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool. It's nice.
What was your favorite drill or your go-to drill before that? Like for your new people that you really like to get them through first to get them up to speed?
For sure, down firefighter is a big one. So like going to an actual vacant structure, but I always bring my Bluetooth speaker and then I'll play like audio from an actual Mayday because I think like just that simple step adds so much extra stress to it. So that's one that I do with my new guys. But like my Brantless, so we have a new cub right now. He's 3 cubs. Our cubs are our probies.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that.
Cub. We gotta find out what a baby beaver is, and we call them that.
A baby beaver.
Yeah, here they're cubs. I don't know the idea behind it honestly, but they've been cubs as long as I can remember. So
that's sweet. Interesting. I like it.
My favorite one to do with them, literally first day, is like fake a structure fire. So like my drive. You guys have pulse point by you?
We have it. We don't use it. We don't have any CAD. That's one of our future plans. Our chief is looking at. But yeah, right now we have 0 CAD. So
okay.
We got a pager.
We have IAR and a pager. That's all we get. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so by us, Pulse Point is actually like an app on your phone where like if a structure fire comes in, it'll show the address on your phone. For a while there, they were coming in like before the dispatch information. So like if you had Pulse Point and another station didn't, you'd be able to get a jump on the fire.
That's what they do in Wichita.
It doesn't happen anymore. They fixed that bug. But so our first day with the Cub, one of us or like a firefighter in the back or somebody would be like, "You guys, that's our first in. It's right up the road. Let's go!" And then we'll shoot down to wherever and like make the Cub think we're actually going to a fire. So he has to lay out under pressure and like you can kind of see because it's super easy to be like, "Hey, we're going training. We're gonna lay a line to the back."
Yeah.
Sure, you've done that a million times in the academy, but when you add that extra element of like, shoot, we're first in, we're right up the road, get your shit on, let's go. That's definitely my favorite, like first day drill. But then of course, like ladder bailouts are always fun, or like down firefighter up the stairs. That stuff is always fun, like further down the road.
I wish we could simulate that.
Yeah,
it's fun. Well, can you do the test page on your pager?
We could, but then you'd hear the test right away. But like because we have IAR. We definitely could get away with faking that because with the pager, sometimes the IR will come in before the page comes out because somebody will jump up and be like, "Hey, fire request," and we'll take off. We definitely could fake that well enough.
I'm gonna call dispatch and I'll just put a test fire page out.
I don't even know if we need to do that because then they'd hear test. If you just shot up like we always do, IAR. All of us, our phones go off and it's like it says fire request. None of us.
Even they're new, they're not going to be like, "Are you faking it?" Like they're just like, "Okay, we gotta go." And
we just jump up.
Add some extra stress in it.
There too. Yeah, so they were there before us. So we pull up and the truck's already there, and the boss is in on it. And he's like, "Fire's on the second floor!" Like you get other companies in on it. It's super fun.
That's awesome.
And then you like that drill, my Cub's glove like flew across the backyard, and I'm like, okay, so we got to figure out how to like level ourselves a little bit, but it kind of shows you like what you're working with under pressure.
I like that a lot. That definitely be something we could implement by us
for sure.
That's a great plan. I like that. Next we'll kind of keep talking about company officers. So when you got promoted, what was the biggest learning curve that you experienced when becoming a company officer?
Okay, so the promotion process I took was a little bit different. We used to have what was called a special lieutenant, which was a lieutenant just for the ambulance. So that's how I started. So 3 years ago, I was a special lieutenant, and then just under 2 years ago is when you have to like retest and then get promoted to fire lieutenant.
Okay.
So the jump for me to special wasn't that big because I had already been acting. We have like acting bosses on the med units a lot.
Okay.
So the jump from firefighter to special lieutenant, I guess, wasn't that different. But when I moved from special lieutenant to fire lieutenant, that was a lot different because then instead of just having like one person on the ambulance that answers to you, you have a whole firehouse full of people. Mm-hmm. And I think I downplayed that in my mind a little bit because I'm like, well, I'm already a lieutenant, like I'm already doing time cards and staffing and all of the things. But having a whole crew that you're responsible for like training and making sure everybody's working together effectively and we're all communicating, like it's just a whole added level of responsibility that I definitely downplayed. And I don't think it's just having more members because I mean, you're still a boss in the firehouse, but it's just more responsibility of like just making sure everybody's squared away. Like, do you know how to do this? Mm-hmm. Everyone's on the same page. I guess just like coordinating your team was probably, I downplayed that in my mind more than I should have.
Awesome. For like Milwaukee coming out of the academy, do you go straight to if you're a medic, do you go straight to the ambulance or do you get placed or just you just get assignment?
It's typically a 50-50 split. So you'll go to, they call, I don't know if they still call them, they used to call them med houses. So like any house with an ambulance, you usually do 50-50 time between an engine and an ambulance for your first year. And then sometimes your second too, depending.
Awesome. Okay. Do you get those medics now get assigned to the med afterwards though? Like, is that you're assigned or do you guys bounce in the house once you get out that second or third year?
Honestly, it's all changing all the time. So right now, it's like your first 2 years, you're typically splitting time between the engine or the med and the med unit or truck and the med unit. And then your third year, you're typically on a med unit for the year. I think they try to send. So like the first 2 years would be like a busier house, right, as a cub coming out. And then the third year, they're trying to send them to like a slower med unit. And then after that, bring them back into the inner city on like a heavy engine.
Okay. Is that your probationary year? Is that 2 years?
Just one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So usually then it's crazy, you guys. I don't know if it's like this by you, but like, so then typically your second year, you're a senior now. You're the senior firefighter because you would get a cub then, and then that's the person that you're splitting your time with between the engine.
Well, that's kind of the same. I mean, I'm kind of senior, only been in for 2 years, and I got like 5 people under me.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast it goes.
It does.
Yeah. That was the whole reason that we came up with this podcast was it seems just, and Brent and I have been fortunate enough to go across the country on trainings and stuff, and we thought it was maybe a Wisconsin thing, but it seems everywhere that just this last 2 years, there was so many retirements, so many, people that were hired 20, 30 years ago, then all these openings that all these departments across the country are just young now.
So, I mean, it's crazy.
It was what Bobby said that they went 11 years before they had to hire, that they from 2005 to 2016, they didn't hire anybody. So and that wasn't the first time we'd heard something crazy like that with all these bigger cities or everything that they had, they were full, they had hiring freezes. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need 20 people. It's crazy. It is just crazy how everything changed.
It is. Yeah. I guess supposedly they're trying to hire like 200 in the next year here for MFD. So we'll see how that goes.
You guys get another med unit?
Who knows? We're for sure getting rigs back, but nobody has any concrete information on what they will be yet. So everyone's patiently waiting.
Brennan and I worked down in Milwaukee on Bell before we got hired. So I put
I could imagine. Yeah, I went before I got assigned to where I was now, I was at Med 5, which had the Bell ambulance that responded out of the firehouse.
Okay.
So those guys like maybe 20 minutes out of the day, like they're just gone all day.
Yeah.
And Med 5
is running 24 hours.
It's just
it's
crazy.
The coolest thing was working down there during COVID though, because it was done. Like there was nothing. I had a no-hitter for the first time down there. Like that's the central station at Bell. Okay. There's like usually 20 units out of there, and they're like you never see each other. We were backed, like it was packed full of rigs. Like the gates weren't able to close. There was people had to park on the streets because there was no calls. Nobody was calling anymore as soon as COVID hit. It was such a weird and like cool feeling because it was almost like the private ambulance down there. You have some people that are lifers, but a lot of people that use it as a stepping stone.
Right.
So it was like a firehouse that night. Because you work 24 hours, you work overnight, and there was just all these people that there was ping pong going on. There was like just catch out, and like it was nobody knew what to do because everybody worked night shift in Milwaukee. We were like, none of us wanted to sleep because we were already all slept because we prepared to not get any sleep. Right. Like it was such a weird and cool experience to be a part of. But yeah, it's Milwaukee's a different animal. It's a different breed
for sure.
So now we got some extra questions. We got some questions that were sent in. So this question comes from Christine, and she says, how did you overcome the challenge of leaving your kids for 24 hours at a time, as well as dealing with breastfeeding, if you did? When she kind of explained to us, it sounds like she just recently had a kid. She's also a firefighter and going back to work right now. She says she's about a month and a half into the back to work side, and that she wants some advice on it.
Okay, very cool. That's exciting. Well, congratulations to her and her baby. I'll get deep for a minute here. So after my first baby, I had some pretty severe issues with like postpartum anxiety. And like way down the road, it eventually turned into like I was diagnosed with like PTSD related postpartum anxiety. And the way they explained it to me was like, when you're a daycare teacher, you're used to seeing like little kids thriving and learning and growing. And like that's the expectation for your kid at home. When you're like a firefighter or a nurse or something, you see a lot of kids who are like hurt and sick and dying. So like that could become the expectation for you at home. And that's kind of how it was for me. Like I lived in this constant fear that something was going to happen to my baby all the time. And it was horrible. So like the thought of going back to work was terrifying to me. So I had to take some time and like work through those issues. And thankfully the department allowed me to do that. And I'm so grateful for that. But honestly, it was like after I worked on that stuff in my mental and like got my mental health back, it was sort of like you had to rip the Band-Aid off, right? So like the first day back, I was like, how am I ever going to leave my sweet little baby? Like this is going to be the worst day ever. And then you go back to work and it's kind of just like, oh, like I'm meant to be here. I love my job. It felt so good to be back. You have like a piece of your life that just like, it's like a piece of the puzzle that's like gone for a little bit because you're focused on being a mom and like figuring out this new life. And then it was really just like almost freeing for me to go back. And I feel a little bit guilty saying that, but it was like freeing to like go back to like having an identity outside of just being a mom to this little baby all the time. Like I could actually go back and have this purpose of like helping people and using my brain in other capacities. So it's a huge change. Like whenever it's an adjustment, it's going to be hard in the beginning, but after the first few shifts, it just felt good. Like it was good to like focus my mind somewhere else and just be
away from mom.
And then after my second baby, I was like, take these kids, I'm ready to go back. But breastfeeding, I did breastfeed both my kids, and it was really hard with the schedule, I won't lie. So for us, we had just implemented our like pregnancy and lactation policy. We didn't have one with my first baby, but we did with my second, which basically allowed us like a clean space to pump and had to have a lock on the door. It couldn't be a bathroom, which again, I'm so grateful for those policies. You could take yourself out of service if you needed to, which like on paper sounds great. But again, like I said, I worked at Med 5, so we're used to taking 20 some runs a day. So like the first couple of shifts back, I'm like, okay, I have to pump every 6 hours or whatever. You're supposed to pump like every so often as much as your baby would eat, which is unrealistic in life. But so I'd like take myself out of service and be like, all right, I got to do this really quick. And then you would like, either I'd be sitting there watching the CAD and like watching all the runs that everybody else is taking for me, or like you hear an ambulance go by and you're like, this just feels horrible. Like somebody gets shot 3 blocks away and they have to wait 5 minutes for an ambulance because I'm sitting here pumping. Like it was really stressful. So for me, like I went back being like, I got to be on this strict schedule, but like we're already taking 8 runs after midnight and now I'm staying up to wash bottles and pump. And it was a lot. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I finally had to get in the mindset of like, whatever works. Like, and I was lucky I was able to figure it out and make it work. But a lot of the time, like I would keep myself in service, and the guys I worked with were great. They would, if it was like a call up the road or something, they would let me finish up and handle the call until we got there. But a lot of the times, like I would finish pumping or stop pumping in the middle of a session and throw a sweatshirt on and hope I didn't leak through on the middle of a call and just kind of figure it out. But it's hard, but my biggest piece of advice to her is to just like give yourself grace and do what you can. And that's good enough. Your baby will be just fine.
How was childcare? Was it kind of hard to schedule in there? How did that work with your husband?
So we are super blessed because the daycare that we use lets us rotate. A lot of daycares, like you have to give them a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or they won't give you admission. But the place that we go to understands that I'm a firefighter and my husband is an electrician, so he rotates sometimes too. So they're super great about just show up when you need to. Like,
that's
so
awesome.
we're super blessed there. Yeah, we don't have like a ton of family help by us, so we have to rely pretty heavily on daycare, but they've been really willing to work with us. I think I've heard of other families that have had similar experiences where if you just explain like, hey, I'm a firefighter, I rotate, my schedule is crazy. A lot of the times if you can provide like at least a couple weeks in advance, they'll work with you. And then there's the whole mandate thing too. So you never know. Like, I might be there tomorrow. They might be in for a full day. I'm not sure. So the way we have it worked out now is that they go for a full day on the days that I'm on shift and then a half day when I come off shift. So it works out really well because either I can come home and get like a quick hour nap before the madness starts, or like a workout in or something like that. So we're super blessed to have the childcare option that we do here. I know it's really hard for some people to find a daycare center that will actually rotate like that.
Yeah. Yeah, getting that nap after shift is sometimes very helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Next question that we have, kind of just a broad one. Well, we can dive in a little bit more too. Is what's the best piece of advice that you feel you can give any female firefighter starting their career?
I guess honestly, like my advice for female versus a male is not that different because again, you're signing up to do the same thing. It's the responsibility that you take as a woman, knowing you're entering a male-dominated field. Again, the thick skin goes a long way, but the biggest piece of advice I have for anybody is to just be consistent. Like, of course, everybody has their bad days. I'm not saying that, but just to be consistent in your attitude and your approach to work and your dedication. Like, if you're consistently showing up, doing the same things, or like consistently showing up, asking questions, wanting to train, I think those things go a long way in just building your reputation. And it takes a lot of time. That's something I'm trying to like get in my brain too. Like that stuff just doesn't happen overnight. And then like when you promote or you get a new crew or you like change firehouses or something like that, it almost starts over because none of these people know you now. So it's really just that like long-term dedication and consistency, I think, are huge.
Yeah. That's one of the, I think the nice things about us being, a little bit of a smaller department is we're only one house still. And we have 3 females on the department. We got 2 on our shift, and just the consistency. And there's I don't think anybody looks at them any different. I mean, if I mess up throwing a ladder, it's going to be the exact same as if she mess up. It's going to be the same amount of shit. It's going to be like it doesn't. I think all the females on our shift have done a great job at proving themselves, and nobody thinks anything different of them. They're just one of the crew. I know on our shift, like we talk, whenever people say one of the guys, it's gender inclusive. Yes. It means everybody.
Really? Okay. So pet peeve. I really hate when people be like, you guys and girls, like it's not that serious. I'm always like, we're just all a bunch of guys being dudes. It's fine.
No, that's awesome. So I mean that kind of wraps up the questions you have. Do you have any questions for us or anything to talk about? We have kind of our kitchen table now, which is just we call it the kitchen table bullshittery. We just all the problems are solved at the kitchen table, just talking around and firing things off. It's anything for you?
I don't have anything like super specific. I'm just really excited that you guys asked me to be on. I think like the whole message behind the Women's History Month and relating it to the fire service was really cool. So like when you asked me, I was very excited. So thank you for that. But also I screenshotted one of the comments on your post, and I will probably butcher it, and I don't remember who said it, but like somebody had posted a picture of their like 15-year-old cadet explorer who wants to be a firefighter, female, and I thought that was super cool. So then I'm like sitting here thinking about all these things, like what do I want to talk about in this podcast? Like what message do I want to relay? And I don't really have anything specific, but I just think it's super cool to see like girls that young who recognize this career as a possibility, because I for sure didn't. Like when I started out as looking into nursing, I guess I didn't even realize that firefighting was an option for me. And that's not like that was 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like that was 10 years ago. So I think just seeing that stuff like really motivates me. And I think it's super cool that it's becoming more inclusive that way. And I think it's huge. And like the female influence, although small, I think it's super powerful.
Right. For sure. Yeah. We had 3 cadets, because me and Bryce run our cadet program. We have a cadet program in Beaver Dam. We have 3 females. One being a cadet captain, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's our senior cadet, so she's our captain.
That's awesome.
So the next one's our second. She's gonna, after this year, she'll probably be the cadet lieutenant. So yeah, it's I think half, maybe even more. I think we may have even gotten a 4th we may have half or more of our cadets as females. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see that, that it is. We go to the high schools, we go to all of the recruiting events and stuff and try and get people on. And I say at the bare minimum, it's been 50-50 of, male to female that we've gotten people interested in cadets. So it's cool. Everything's changing, and it's, a good change. It's good that they're, like you said, they're starting to see that as an opportunity and right out of school.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that. And it's challenging like anything. I'm always like there if somebody needs just a shoulder or an opinion or whatever. I always tell the instructors out of the academy, like, hey, if you're a female recruit, need somebody to talk to, like, please let me know, because it's one of those things where, at least, again, this is all me personally, but it's like, am I making the right decision? Like, am I in the right spot? Am I supposed to be here? So a lot of it is just like questioning, am I on the right path? And sometimes you just need somebody to like reassure you. So my door is always open. You guys have my number if somebody needs somebody to talk to about something like that. I think just having that extra reassurance was really big for me coming up. And I think it is for other women too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's helpful on like med calls too. We've got talking with some of the guys who've been there for a long time and stuff. If you get like an abuse call or something, I know if I was down in Milwaukee or even starting off, like if I show up with all guys on a rig, I'm like, you don't want to scare me, don't feel bad. So it's nice having that as an opportunity like that. We, our females are really good on our shift, where some comes in, like they'll probably hop in as a third. And then, find out, hey, do you want to talk to a female? Do you want us to be here? Are you comfortable with that? And I think that's been a really helpful thing, and just, on the job, a benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had a number of calls where patients are like, I will only talk to a female, get these men away from me. So I think there's definitely a need for it. And then there's also the aspect of like your pregnancy related calls that are sometimes a little bit uncomfortable.
That's very true.
Our senior guy will not touch. He has made it clear he's got 3 years left. He has yet to give birth or deal with anything childbirth related, and he will run as fast as he can the opposite direction if anything comes in. That's been one of our captains is expecting right now, him and his wife, and that was the funny thing, because she was still working. She's a nurse at one of our local hospitals, and he was like, not calling us. She's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry, Cap. He's like, I ain't doing it. So
you're on your own.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. So I mean, anything else to throw in? Is there any trainings, any events, maybe either with Ignite or any trainings coming up that either you're gonna be at or you want people to know about? Kind of shout out anything, any people, anything like that?
Nothing super specifically right now. I'm working on just some trainings. We're coming up with like a charm school basically for lieutenants. We had one for a while, but then it kind of phased out, which is always crazy to me to be like, okay, you get promoted, and then like literally the next day you're a boss. There's no like formal training. So that's just something that I've been pretty tied up working on, but nothing like outside the department that comes to mind immediately.
Awesome.
And your guys as lieutenants, they're house bosses, right? Do you have is that like your lieutenant's in charge of each house, and you have a battalion chief or a captain going around, or does each house have a captain as well?
We have house captains.
Okay.
Yep, we have house captains too, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, you got an extra person there to help out. Do they kind of run the day, or do they more deal with administrative stuff?
I would say it's pretty shared. Like a lot of the administrative duties are, well, for the most part, I'd say similar between lieutenants and captains, except for captains do like the quarterly supply ordering. They're responsible for like EMS supply orders and things like that. But as far as like probationary evals and time cards, paying your people, staffing, that stuff is pretty much shared. But it's just always nice to have like that extra level above you where you're like, hey, I'm not super sure what to do with this. Like, please give your captain the advice.
I fuck up, it's on your hands.
Shit rolls uphill, right? That's what you Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on, especially, the kind of the short notice that we gave you, and having it be a special episode would be pretty cool. We really appreciate you coming on, that we could make it work out. So
yeah, thank you guys. This was super fun. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Yeah, everybody, you take care, and as always, don't be a shitbag.
Thanks for tuning in.